My name is Skawanati, and I'm the co-director of Aboriginal Territories in Cyberspace, and I'm somehow affiliated with the Indigenous Futures Cluster Presents, along with Jason Edward Lewis, who is the director of the Initiative for Indigenous Futures. Today, I'm not going to read Elisa's bio because I'm assuming you've all read it. Instead, I'm going to tell you how she came to be here, how we came to meet, which was that actually it was the internet. Elisa invited me to do, I'm also an artist, and Elisa invited me to do a 24-hour exhibition on some sort of weird gallery Facebook page. And so we talked to each other at that time, we communicated at that time, and then the next part of the story was last January?
Last May.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I had no voice. But we saw each other in person at SBC Gallery where she performed, and I was at that time looking for a certain kind of music, futuristic indigenous music, for my upcoming machinima movie that I was making, and she's playing that kind of music in her performance. I asked her about it, and she had composed it. So I asked her if she would want to work on my thing, and she did. And so that's kind of how she got here. And it was like she was traveling around the area anyway, and I was like, oh, maybe we can get you right here. And then we thought, wow, she should, why don't we hear what she has to say and get a. Jason didn't know her work, or we thought a lot of people might not know her work, and so it could be a great way to introduce her to our little community here at Concordia. So I welcome you to Indigenous Territory. Jojage is the name that my people called Montreal back in the day. And I'm very happy to see you, and I'm very happy that you'll be sharing your work with us now. Yawagoa.
And our people are treaties together.
Through our own ancient treaties. So yeah, and that was why I felt also really great about having her music in a movie about Haudenosaunee people. There was already a deep connection there. So, yay!
Yay!
All right, I'm gonna sit down.
So I thought I would talk a little about myself. I was born in Miami, Oklahoma, and it's a really small town in the northeast corner of Oklahoma, and there are a lot of different tribes that live there. It's almost too numerous to count. I try to take pictures of all the different tribal license plates, and so far I have more than 12, but officially it is the headquarters for 9 different tribes. And I'm Cherokee, and I'm Muskogee Creek. And so I'll start with, this is some older work. This piece is called Buffalo. And what happened was I had a really bad bike accident a few years ago. And the bike accident was so bad, I had 7 fractures in my face, and they said that there were so many fractures in my skull that they couldn't count them, that it was like an egg had fallen, and there were just so many tiny little fractures that it was impossible to count. And I had to recover. I was recovering in Oklahoma, which I always find very inspiring. And I was in bed, and I had the idea to take Native American sheet music and put it into Ableton and start making songs this way. And I had been, previous to the bike accident, I had been taking piano lessons and trying to teach myself Ableton, and this idea kind of made it all come together. So then I decided to make animations for the songs, and this animation is called Buffalo, and I will play it for you. So it may be hard to tell that that is telling the origin story of the traditional buffalo dance of the Blackfoot people. But yeah, it's sort of a vague, loose narrative about a woman who says to the buffalo, if you come over, I'll marry one of you. And then the buffalo, they come over the cliff, and it's because her family hasn't had meat for 2 months, and so they come over, and she says, "Oh, I'll marry one of you." And so the buffalo shaman says, "Oh, right, well, now you have to marry me." And he takes her away, and her father goes after her, and the buffalo find out that he's after her, and they trample him to death. And then she finds one of his bones and brings him back to life. And because she used her song to bring him back to life, the buffalo say, "Okay, well, now that you've done this magical thing, could you do that for us? So can you make a song and a dance to bring us back to life?" And so then he lets them go. And so yeah, that's one of my older animations. This one is a little bit different from that, and it's called Ham Dance. And there's a Yeti and a polar bear, and they show you how to do the ham dance.
Hey man, is that ham dance?
Yeah, man.
Well, turn it up, man. Ham dance has it all, man. A sample of an original rock hit, an 808 beat, and its own dance, man.
But how do you do the ham dance, man?
Just move your arms and legs like this, man.
Oh yeah, man. Feels good, man. Hey, Boober, take it away, man.
Who cares if you have money or pants? Dance like a ham while you have a chance. Short hands, fat hams, hands on the bone. Dance like a ham on a throne. Shake your butt, move it fast. Hams are here, but it won't last. Spank your ham, get him good. Take him back with you to the hood.
Oh, I'm glad you guys like the ham dance. So yeah, after that, I kind of felt like I had gotten as far as I could on my own, teaching myself Ableton. So I applied to different grad schools, and I got into CalArts. So I was studying fine art at CalArts, and would take classes in the electronic music school, sort of sneak those in. And continued using the sheet music, but then really sort of felt like it was interesting, it was important to start archiving it and start really referencing the songs and thinking about the purpose of the ceremonial songs. And this song is called Bear Hunting Song. And so I used this piece for a song called Bear Hunting Song. And the lyrics are die, don't die, don't die. And I used it for a performance called Fake, which is currently on view at the Missoula Art Museum in an exhibition curated by Wendy Red Star. And I will play you, there's two parts to the performance. There's like a live performance, and then there's a performance for camera where I call and turn myself into the Indian Arts and Crafts Board, and these are excerpts from both of those pieces. I'm calling to turn myself in to the Indian Arts and Crafts Board for making fake artwork. 1888 ARTFAKE.
You have reached the Indian Arts and Crafts Board. No one is available at the present time to take your call. Please leave a detailed voice message and someone will get back to you as soon as possible.
Hi, my name is Elisa Harkins, and I would like to turn myself in to the Indian Arts and Crafts Board for making fake or inauthentic Native American work. Earlier this year, I performed at the California Institute of the Arts in the Mint Gallery. What I did was I created a large white modern sculpture upon which I sang and danced. The melody of the song was taken from Cherokee sheet music, published by Susato Press, of traditional music from the 1820s. I took it upon myself to add disco beats as well as minimal lyrics that said, "Die, don't die, don't die, don't die." The costume that I wore was a Navajo wedding bonnet on my head, and on my body I wore a dress that I created myself that imitated powwow regalia. I have a couple reasons why I want to turn myself in. The first reason, which is fairly obvious, is that I was wearing a Navajo wedding bonnet, and I'm not Navajo, nor male, nor getting married, which traditionally it's worn in a wedding ceremony by a man. So that's obviously inauthentic. The other reason is that I don't have a CDIB card. I was adopted by Anglo parents, and despite that,
You have exceeded the recording limit. Thank you. To review this message, press 6.
So yeah, both of those pieces are much longer. The first part where I'm dancing is 12 minutes long, and the second part is pretty long. I keep calling back and talking about my adoption, and it wasn't until recently that I was enrolled. Yeah, so if you're interested in seeing those in full, they're on my website, elisaharkins.org. So anyway, after that, I kind of wanted to get away from the fake and get more in the real. So I was invited to do a performance at the Hammer, and I asked Suzanne Kite to perform with me. And we performed 3 different songs. This is us. This is a fancy dance shawl that I made with glitter vinyl on the back of it. This is us performing. I think Suzanne is hitting a shell as a percussion instrument while I'm singing, and she sang backup vocals, and she let me borrow her Lakota earrings, which is very nice of her. And yeah, I'm sorry I missed your performance, Suzanne, but I heard it was amazing. After that, Suzanne and I had to part ways. Suzanne was finishing her MFA, and then I ended up moving back to Oklahoma. But the project was called Wampum. So this is one of the songs from Wampum. This is the religious song. So then I was invited to perform at SBC, and it was part of an exhibition curated by the Woodland School, and then also invited to SAW in Ottawa to perform. And this is a video of my performance at SAW.
Hello? Okay. I'm actually from Miami, Oklahoma, which is this town of 12,000 people. And there are 10 different tribes that live there. I'm Cherokee, I'm Muskogee Creek, and this dress is a Cherokee tear dress, and it's called a tear dress because they would tear the fabric and sew it on. And this is what Cherokees wear to powwows. Anyway, you may hear me speaking in a language that you don't know during this performance, and I'm singing in Cherokee, so thank you. That song was in Cherokee. This song is in English. Peyote.
cut that short because we're running short on time. But that was shot and edited by my dear friend Nevin, who's here today. And so the next piece is was also shown at SBC, and it's called the Plains Indian Sign Language. And in this piece, I'm using Plains Indian Sign Language, which was created mostly for hunting, but there are so many different tribes that are living in close proximity to each other that are and were, that they each had their own tribal language, and instead of learning each other's tribal language, they would speak in sign language. And so it was sort of like a universal way of talking, and really came in handy, especially if you're hunting buffalo. You know, you say, oh, I see this, instead of saying like, hey, there's some buffalo over here. So, so in this piece, I am telling the true story about my friends. And I just want to say that that piece was in collaboration with Nathan Young, who shot that, and his mother actually made the dress that I'm wearing in the previous video, the black Cherokee tear dress. And as I was working on this presentation, I found it a little strange that I've also been working on these canoes. And the name of the black canoe is Tin Killer, which it felt really eerie to me thinking about Virginia's death and then this canoe. And in Oklahoma, some of the lakes are named like Tin Killer, Man Killer, like Wilma Mankiller, the Cherokee chief. She was the Cherokee chief. People think that that's a warrior name, but it's actually names after bodies of water that have killed people. So the black canoe is Tin Killer, named after Lake Tin Killer. The other canoe, which looks kind of like a seed, I took like the middle bar out of it. It's called AbTeC, which is an indigenous name for another lake in Oklahoma. This one is called Grand, which is the closest lake to where I live. This one, I made it when I was in Los Angeles, is actually called Medicine Song for Rough Water. And they're very large. They're 12 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And they are fiberglassed with resin, and they're made out of bent plywood. And they are, you can actually, they're sculptural. I present them as sculptural, as sort of like, sort of back to thinking about the vague and thinking about, like, is it a canoe or is it not, or is it a sculpture? Do you hang it on the wall? But they can actually go on the water, and this is the first one that I ever made. That was on Wessarunset Lake in Madison, Maine, which is the location of the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture, and that's my friend Haley Bushlin taking a ride with me in my homemade canoe, and you can see there's like some duct tape keeping some nails from poking us, and so yeah. And then, so incidentally, Medicine Song for Rough Water is actually a song, and I will play it for you right now. I'll start over. And this is a song that we use for We Extend the Rafters. So yes, as Skawanati was saying earlier, after my performance at SBC, she asked me to collaborate with her, which is so incredible. I'm such a huge fan. It's like a dream come true. So we used Medicine Song for Rough Water for a section where the peacemakers are bringing people together. And it's sort of like a trip-hop version. So. Okay, and then another piece of music that we used is Shaking a Squash. And I actually got that from this book, which is the music of the Iroquois Confederacy. And I'll pass it around. Thought it was interesting that the US Constitution was modeled after the Iroquois organization. But you're welcome to look at the different songs in here. So that is Shaking a Squash, and it's used as the Peacemakers sort of theme song. This is the baby version. And this is the grown-up version, the grown-up man. And so that concludes my talk. I encourage you to come to the opening tomorrow. And this is the Shaking the Squash trap version. I'll play it for you.
That they would like to ask Elisa.
Ooh.
Is that too much?
Yeah, we'll do those.
Yes, or do you want
Yeah.
to moderate?
Yes.
You mentioned that you removed the rib from one of your canoes. Taking that out was a deliberate choice. Did you mean to communicate many things or just one particular thing?
Well, it's really more of like just a formal sculptural kind of idea, like how can I play with the shape to make it still be a canoe but still kind of have you question what it actually is, you know.
In the lovely video, the ham dance,
Yes.
what were the designs in the background, the patterns?
A lot of, I should have brought that book, but a lot of them are Navajo rug designs, weaving patterns. And one of them was like a sand design.
And is the ham dance an existing thing, or is that something that you came up with, the ham dance?
Oh, it's something I came up with.
Thanks.
Why the polar bear? I feel like I get the Sasquatch. Not the polar bear. I don't know.
Was it Sasquatch or Yeti?
They're the same. Aren't they the same people?
I thought Yeti was Asian.
I don't know the origin, but the polar bear. Oh, I don't know. He's just. I was living in Chicago at the time, and it gets very, very cold. And I just thought of these characters as like they're in the club, warming people's bodies up, you know. So. Yeah.
Can you speak a bit to disco?
A bit to
music?
disco.
And what does disco make possible for you, and maybe dance music between the gallery and the club environment?
Right. Well, I'm interested in disco musically, and sort of how it's a pop version of minimalism. That you know, with minimalism, its repetition could go on and on forever and ever, infinitely long, and it's sort of the same thing with disco and the arpeggiators. And you think about Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and it's 12 minutes long, but you never really get tired of it. And so I'm interested in disco as a musical structure. I guess I'm also interested in it, as being a vehicle for indigeneity and dance, and I don't know. It's like really difficult to think about pop music and think about appropriation of other cultures, and think about like what is the correct combination, I guess, or I don't know. Like I stay up all night worrying about these things. So.
I have a question. I guess I'm wondering. So I guess maybe the question is the origin of the sheet music. So like, was it an ethnographer sitting in a longhouse writing down the notes that they heard being sung? Because they certainly weren't being played on pianos.
Right. There's a bibliography in the sheet music, and a lot of it is from the Smithsonian, and the Cherokee sheet music I can kind of understand because in the 1800s they were very Anglified, and the sheet music, it says it's for flute and recorder, but certainly like the melody for peyote, the peyote drinking songs are not done on flute. They're chanted and they're sung. So there are a lot of like incorrect kind of things in the sheet music, and then it does feel like it's my job to kind of do the research and figure out like the original use and ceremony for the song.
It does or does not?
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
All right. If there are no more questions, I shall close this talk. Do you want to say anything, Mr. Jason Edward Lewis?
No.
Okay. Thank you all, Yawagoa, for coming. Really appreciate your presence, and thank you very much for sharing your work with us. It was a pleasure.